Okay, so Joaquim Cruz or Joaquim Cruz, if I get your
Jo-
name.
Jo- I don't even say. I don't even know how to say it.
It's a difficult name for the Brits to pronounce.
Yes, it is. Joaquim.
Well,
Joaquim. Yeah.
what I do know is it's been 40 years since you won the Olympic
Right.
800-meter title in Los Angeles. Does it really feel that long?
No, it feels long when people talk about it. Okay, people talk about it and remind me. It was like I left the sport, as an athlete, and then I start coaching right away. And when I start coaching, it's like the goal remained the same. I'm going to leave the sport through my athletes, um, journey. And so as I start working, you get so engaged, so occupied with your work, and time goes by. It has been what 19 years that I have been working for the US Paralympics, and 19. It just like went like that. And this year's I there has been more attention on the 40 years because people
Yeah.
have been, how do you feel about this? Has been 40 years, you know, since you won the medal. And I wasn't thinking about it. Okay.
Have
Um,
have Brazilian media been in touch with you as
oh,
well to do interviews? Yeah, yeah.
especially the Brazilian media. They contact me the end of last year because they want to do a special at the Coliseum, LA Coliseum, and because it was going to be 40 years, right? I said, "Oh, has been that long already?" And they asked me, "How many times have you been here since 1984?" I said, "This is the second time." Right? That's what it was. I I never kept track of it,
Yeah.
and so yeah, 40 years.
But you must have very fond memories of the LA games from '84. What's your biggest memory or your most kind of vivid or fondest memory from that occasion?
Well, LA was
And athletes often remember strange things. It might not be crossing the winning the finish line in the 800 meters. It might be something different.
uh, that's what I was gonna say. LA was the peak of everything. The the summary that was done prior to being there. Uh, when I came to this country, 1983-84, the season 1983-84, I I was experiencing a very special phase of my life. I would say a balanced phase. 1984, I was in the human equilibrium balance,
Yeah.
emotionally, socially, and spiritually. Emotionally, I like to bring emotionally first because that's when I met my future wife.
Okay.
And in January, I met her in January, and we started dating, and I was hit by a love lightning, and that spilled through everything that I did. Okay, and it was the first time that I fell in love with my training, with the school, everything that I was experiencing, love in everything that I was doing. Okay, um, and training became much easier. Okay, um, and what else? My and that helped with my spiritual life as well. Okay, and I was feeling things that not I don't think a human being would feel. A human being would feel unless that human being is in love.
Yeah.
Okay, I think it was here who said that love is it's blind. right? Love is blind, and
Yeah.
lovers don't know, can't see the crazy things they commit. Okay, I
Yeah.
was living like, um, and I was using that passion, that feeling, in everything that in my preparation, my school, my social life, and so I experienced a different, a supreme um, feeling throughout the whole preparation for the games.
Yeah. Like
When
this
I went,
equilibrium, as you say.
yeah, yes. When I went to the games, was like um, I was on the love adrenaline. Okay, it's a chemicals that
Yeah.
when you're in love, when you're passionate about the things that you do, you can accomplish crazy things.
Yeah.
And one thing that I felt, not so much in LA, but in Eugene, we had the nationals in Oregon at the NEC2As, and I had 4 days of competition, which we use for a good training, preparation for the Olympics. 4 days in a row. I opened up with the 800 semifinal, semifinal the next day, semifinal for the 15, and then final 800 the next day, and final 15 the next day. And so I won out, I won my 800, and then the final for the 15. In Eugene was customary to, have all the athletes sitting down on a bench in the middle of the track before, to be introduced. And of course, being my hometown there, I was the last one to be introduced, and I was sitting down for a while. And when they said my name and I got up and I started walking, I couldn't feel my legs. Couldn't feel my legs. I had to really control my legs. I felt like I was levitating. Okay,
Yeah.
and my nature, my competitiveness nature, and I said, wow, okay, I'm gonna use this to my advantage. And I ran 1,500 meters like if I was levitating the whole time. Okay,
Really?
yeah, and I it's like I didn't feel tired. I didn't feel pain. I was just moving my legs and
Yeah.
allowing the crowd, to carry, to take me home. And I come out of that track. I said, "Huh, this is awesome."
Yeah.
You know, so I found out something about myself in a spiritual level.
Yeah.
Okay, of course I'm gonna be using that same emotion in LA, which I did.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Now,
so
now,
those are the things I think. It reminds me of LA. Okay,
okay.
when I went in the stadium uh, to run the final, my spirit was not there anymore. My spirit was miles, kilometers from uh, from California, all the way to Scioto, Oregon, where my future wife was watching me.
So your future wife wasn't in the Coliseum; she was watching on
No,
television.
she was in Oregon. She
Okay.
was in. So my spirit was there with her, and I
Yeah.
was watching. I was watching myself through her eyes, seeing me delivering what I delivered.
Yeah. And what's her name? Sorry.
Mary.
Mary. Okay.
Yeah.
Now some people would say that getting involved with a girl before an Olympic Games is maybe not a great idea. You would not be focused on your training and all that stuff. But it obviously wasn't the case for you. It worked out really well, as you say. You just had this equilibrium, and that just made you a happy person, and you began running phenomenally well.
Jason, I felt like a warrior, um, there's another word, um, like a warrior. I was on my journey. Okay. And in LA, it was the biggest battle of my life, the biggest dragon to slay, to kill. And I was doing for me, for my coach, for my country, and for my loved one. Okay. And that's what was needed, that I was missing in my career. I had gone to Helsinki, to Europe the year before, 83, and I compete. I was running hard every race, but, with a lot of effort, less emotion. But then when I met her, I mixed that emotional aspect, with the toughness was different, totally different. And I was that the story of Beowulf. The warrior goes to kill the dragon, and he knows he's coming back to his loved one. I was feeling like that.
Yeah. Do you think the Helsinki experience as well helped you go on to win the gold in LA? Because Helsinki was a brutal race. Yourself and Peter Elliott were just really battling for the lead, and then you kind of almost burnt each other out, and then Willie Woolbeck came through to win the gold there. Was that a bruising experience at the time? Was that difficult, or how did you handle that?
Was the best experience of my career
At that point. Okay.
Helsinki, what happened in Helsinki had to happen in order for me to win the LA.
Yeah.
Okay. I made the mistakes that I had to make in Helsinki. Okay. In Helsinki, I had one plan only, which was take the lead and run from the front. and I spent all night working on that, which another mistake. I went to sleep, but I couldn't sleep because I was playing the tactic,
okay.
The race in my mind, pretty much the whole night. And I spoke with my coach, and he said, "Well, that's a good approach. Go execute." And I tried to execute, but Peter Elliott messed me up. The 300 meters, he took the lead, and at the time I said, "What this guy is doing? The pace is not." But he probably thought that he had to do that too, and he went to execute, right? So he took the lead. So at the around 320 meters, and from that point, a whole lap, I was fighting him for the lead because that was not part of my plan.
No.
So I say, I gained the lead, about 100 to go, 90 meters to go, but I lost the race. And that was the lesson to learn. Okay. My coach walked to the stand after the race, and Dionisio, remember Dionisio, the Italian? He was with my coach, and he called me dumb, you burro. That was not as smart. And I look at my coach my coach didn't say any word, didn't say anything. We never discussed. We never said we should have done that. We should have made an adjustment. He died, and we never talk about it. Okay. Mainly because my coach knew me well. He trusted I was going to learn from that experience, which I did.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then going into the Olympic year, I guess you were still pretty young. You had an extra year of training and experience. You learned from Helsinki, and you fell in love as well. And it just all came together. In the form you were in LA, you seemed invincible. Did you feel invincible at the time?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And I felt invincible. When after Helsinki, I came back to the US, and I rest for about 4 weeks. So we used to rest. I used to take 4 weeks a break doing nothing. Before I used to play basketball, but LA was too big for me to take risks, so I decided to just walk around and I reflect on my season. 1983 was a good year, a good experience in Europe. And 82, I had surgery and in 82, and I didn't start my training 83 until January. So I skipped about 3 months of basic training, and because of my surgery, and then I had an Achilles injury. And so when I was resting and reflecting, I said, you know what? If I do a good base, a complete base, no one is going to touch me. So in September, October, I made a choice. Of course, I asked myself the right questions. Am I ready, to handle a medal? What am I going to do with it? Okay, am I ready? And the answer was yes. I said, I'm going to do this, and I'm gonna go all the way. And then I start training. I made the decision. I'm going to train so I can get to the podium. Period.
Yeah.
And so I start training, and then I met my wife, and and everything came together after that.
Yeah. Now your best time for 800 meters, it's almost identical to Seb Coe. I saw him a few days ago before this interview. He passed on his best regards to you. I think you still bump into him occasionally.
Yeah, pretty much every year. Yeah.
He always seemed very gracious when you beat him in LA as well. I think he realized that he was beaten by the stronger runner that day, and he was always very sportsmanlike, I felt.
Oh.
But the British runners generally, they were always, is it fair to say they were your biggest rivals during that period? Seb Coe, Steve Cram, Elliott?
I only have great things to say about Coe since the beginning. The first time I met him was Rome, 1981. I was 18. Rome, I was already having problem with my foot, so I didn't train at all, while I was in Europe, but I was able to watch him racing, and there was right before the Rome competition. I think it was a couple of days before, maybe a day before, I went to the track, and I saw him training, and I was fascinated how he, was able to move, and that his frequency, he moved from point A to point B so quick. I said, wow, that's awesome. And my race in Rome was terrible. I choked, period. Okay, I choked. And I remember I was putting my sweats back on, and he was kind enough to stop by and shake my hand and say a few words. Okay. Yeah. I don't think he realized that I didn't speak any English at the time. So I went back to the hotel that night, and I lay down on my bed, and I stared at the ceiling until I fell asleep. And I promised myself I'll never feel that way again, because the race was horrible. I couldn't feel my body. And so 1984, when we were in the middle of the track, waiting for the medal ceremony, and we were quiet, and then he broke the silence and asked, and made a comment and say, well, this is a great day, and we have the best spot in the stadium. And I said, yes. And I took advantage that he broke, the silence. I said, hey, what did you tell me that day in Rome when he shook my hand? And then he said, I told you that you were going to be a great champion.
Yeah.
Okay. And I didn't have any words after that. I said, wow. Okay.
he mentioned the Rome race to me, the World Cup in Rome, and he said that that was the first time when he was really aware of you, and he realized that even though you were beaten that day, you were an athlete who was on the rise, and that you were going to be a real force to be reckoned with a few years later, which was obviously true. So he remembered that World Cup race as well, and you must have finished a fair distance behind him that day, but he knew about you in that race.
Yeah, I was not even in a screen. the there was a little group, was a tactical race. He was in the middle, in the front, controlling the pace, and I was free. And that's what the commentator said. Cruz is not even on the screen. So, but I had a great respect for him. There were two athletes that I model from, and one was Alberto Rantorena of Cuba, because I was more like Alberto Rantorena and Sebastian Coe. One thing that when I started training in 1983, and I always remember, to beat Sebastian Coe, you have to have the speed. You have to be able to move from point A to point B really quick. If you watch the race, the final, even though I was in the front, but I would take a few steps and I look to the side, a few steps, because I was guarding him pretty much the entire race, because I knew he had made a mistake in 1980. Okay? And I was preparing for whatever he was going to do in 1984. Okay. And he was not going to make that mistake again. So the whole time I was not even worried about the pace, because I felt immortal. I felt unbeatable. Okay? I had supreme fitness that I didn't have to worry about that. If the pace was fast, I could handle. If it was slow, I would have the speed, and it was right here. And I was able to, manage the race and manage a Coe at the same time.
Yeah. Do you think you could have run even quicker that season then if you were in such good form, or is it impossible to tell?
I think so, because 100 meters to go, 300 to go, 300 meters where I would start picking up the pace. Why 300? Because I have long strides, okay? And I felt that most of the runners start moving to 50, 200, and 150 to go, okay? So I said, I'm going to train myself at 300. And I practiced that in training. Everything that I did, last 300, 400, 500, I would start picking up the pace and visualize myself in the last 300.
Yeah.
And so 300 to go at the final, I had to tell myself, don't go yet. Don't go yet. So I was holding myself until about 100 meters. 100 meters to go, when I decided to go, I felt the goosebumps.
Really?
I felt the goosebumps. The track, the lanes, I couldn't see the lanes. I was just seeing my lane. They melted, and people were, I was in this supreme being. I could have gone 2 more 100 meters, from that.
Okay. There was always a story that that you had legs that were different lengths, and you had to wear shoe inserts. Is that true?
It's not a story. That's a reality.
That's a real story. So one of your legs is an
2 centimeters, 2 centimeters shorter.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you have to wear shoe orthotics in the.
I had Nike built my shoes with a 1 centimeter build up on the bottom, okay, and my shoes, my spikes, and I almost could compete in the Paralympics. Yeah, so and that's the reason why I had my first surgery in 1982, because I used to play basketballs, and we didn't have good shoes, and I didn't know my coach Luis de Oliveira. He was my basketball coach, age 12, before 12 years old, and when I started running track with him at 14, he kind of noticed because the way I walk. Okay, he said he might have a leg discrepancy, and it was not until 1981 that it was identified that my right femur was 2 centimeters shorter.
Oh, okay. Did that cause further injuries, do you think? Because I mean, all athletes get injured. Every athlete gets injured, really. But you seem to be particularly affected with injuries during your career. Do you think it was mainly due to the leg length discrepancy?
I think it was a combination of everything. The discrepancy plus the intensity. I was very intensive athlete.
Yeah.
I did not like to move slowly. Okay.
Yeah.
And Luis was very intensive coach, and it was intensive because he first of all, he was very structured, systematic. Okay. And I used the sport to show off, and I was really shy growing up, and the sport was a way to express myself, to communicate my characteristics. And so I was a mad person. I was always messing up with his training, especially the volume. Didn't do much volume because I couldn't get to the end of the workout because of the intensity.
Yeah.
I did not like running. Running was too much to handle. The stress was too much to handle growing up, okay? At 14, 15, even 16 years old. I was good at. Luis identified a potential in me right away. My first experience with the basketball was a 12-minute run. I was 11 and almost 12 years old. And I don't know what I did, but I did not like that experience, okay? And my teammates warned me with Luis, you gotta go through the base, and there is a lot of running. There is a lot of running gymnastics, stairs, hills, you name it, before you can even see the color of the ball. And I said, oh boy, how am I gonna do this? And for 2 years, that's what I was doing. We, pretty much following a periodization that a track athlete could easily follow and do well. I was doing that for basketball.
Yeah.
Okay. And with Luis, and that's the reason why when I was 14, and all the kids knew that I hated. Okay. I did the training, did quick to, so I would finish quick. But they knew that I hated. And one kid in particular, Carlos, knew that I disliked so much. And a track coach one day was looking for anyone to represent the school in upcoming championships. And Carlos was at the wrong place at the wrong time. He indicated my name, said, just add Joaquim's name because he runs really well. And told Luis, a basketball coach. And Luis said, okay, nice, you should go there. Let's do a time trial today after the workout of 1,500 meters. And to see, what he can do. So, and I was very shy, very respectful of old people. So I did, all by myself, 5 laps around the 300. And I ran 4:47, 14 years old. And Luis, 4:47, okay. He didn't know anything about track times, okay?
3:47 for a 1,500.
4:47.
Oh, 4:47.
4:47. And he said, okay, from now on, I'm going to prepare a training program so he can do before basketball practice. This was on the weekend. Came Monday, I did not show up for a whole week of practice, basketball practice, hoping that he would understand, what I was trying to do and forget about it. but he did not. So he yelled at me. So, and told me a few lies. Now I know it was a lie, a few lies. At the time I believed him, and he said, "Oh, I know a lot of athletes who is doing both two sports at the same time, blah blah blah, track and other soccer and whatever." There was a lie, and so I went. And my second experience with track was a 219, okay, and my third experience was 403 flat at age 4. But then Luis, this was 1977. He knew that my thing was basketball, and so he after that championship he never touched the subject anymore, and he invited me to participate in this basketball clinic in Brasilia. He asked me to go with him, and the basketball clinic was conducted by an American coach from George Washington University. And so I helped the coaches execute the drills, and at the end of the clinic, the basketball coach removed his pair of shoes and gave it to me. And he asked Luis to translate that. When I finished high school, he would give me a scholarship to play basketball, at George Washington University, and go to school. That was the first time somebody mentioned university to me.
Okay.
And awesome. If this basketball coach thinks that I'm good enough to play basketball, I'm gonna hang out around here, right? Yeah. So, and I remember I was good enough to play. I was 14, but I could play with 16 years old. Okay. I was up and good enough. So I made the state team to go on Brazilian championships age group, 2 years older, in São Paulo. And at the same time, Luis came to US to do a clinic with this basketball coach. So when I returned from São Paulo, Luis was also returning from US. And a few days later, he came to my house for the first time to ask me when I was going to start track again. And I said, I was quiet. I didn't say anything. And then members of my family, I'm the youngest of 6 kids. Everybody started asking me about my track life. And what's going on here? Nobody has ever gone to my basketball games. Nobody knows about me as a basketball player. Why they ask me about track? And I got really upset. Because my dad started asking me about it. My dad didn't have a clue about my sport life.
Yeah.
Okay? So I went to Luis's house, and I faced him. I said, I don't want to do this. I'm not going to do it. And that was the end of it. But he did not stay away, man. He did not. And he gave me a job assisting him with basketball at a club. So he would be in my ear.
Yeah.
I was already 18 at the time. And so he asked one day he gave me a ride home, and he asked me to try. There was within a month, there was a championship in São Paulo. And he asked me to go there and try, for our friendship. And I said, okay, I'll give it a try. And then I went to São Paulo, ran 153 in the 800 and 48 in the 400, age 15, broke 2 national records. And Luis used the idea of coming to US as the pitch, right?
Okay.
And now I know he also went to come to US. Okay, when he was 18 years old, he went to come in and be Elvis Presley bodyguard. So it was a dream of his to come to US. He said, "Well, this kid wants to go to US to play basketball, but track can take him there quicker."
Yeah.
Okay, which did. So 1980. one, I ran 144.3, and that opened up the doors for scholarship in the U.S. And we came the end of the year 1981, September, and I realized that dream. So
I guess when you ran the 153, you were probably not doing much training at all at that stage.
It's funny you say that, because when Luis left for US, he gave me a training program to do. I did everything. It was mainly long runs, stairs, and things, like aerobic and a little bit of power. And I did the workout so I wouldn't have to explain to him why I didn't do it. So I did that, and I started training with the team to go to São Paulo. But that's how I did. And then the competition in São Paulo, track competition, came up. That's when Luis started talking again. So I did about a month of training prior to 3 weeks prior to that competition. And again, the way I ran the first lap 53. And then I died the second lap. But that's how that was my nature. Yeah.
This is very depressing for me, because my best time is 1 minute 54. But I did that when I was about 24, 25 years old. that remains my best time. So I guess this is why I wasn't an Olympic champion, but you are. What can you run now for 800 meters?
I would not even try. I'm too smart for that.
Do you run at all now? Do you do it, or what do you do to keep fit?
Okay, I never liked coffee. Okay, I grew up, I was born in Brazil, grew up in Brazil. I taste coffee and I never acquired the taste. And so my caffeine is my walking or my running in the morning. So, and I found enjoyment and all the balance that I need, the spiritual, the energy, it comes in the morning. First thing in the morning, I put my shoes on and I go on a 3 miles, 5 kilometers walk.
Okay.
Just to reflect. That's how I connect with nature. And so I got, I used to run, but the running was too aggressive, was hurting me a lot. Okay. Yeah. And the walking, it doesn't do that. So I do the walk. Sometimes I shuffle. I do the bike if I want to sweat.
Yeah.
Okay. But I don't miss it.
No. No. And you, this must be a busy summer for you, because it's the Olympics and Paralympics. Did you say you've worked with US Paralympics for, is it 19 years now?
19 years.
19 years. And do you mainly manage athletes and manage a program, or do you coach athletes individually? How does it all work?
I lead the program at the training center in Chula Vista. It used to be the Olympic Training Center. The center used to be owned by the USOC, United States Olympic Committee, and then became United States Olympic and Paralympic Committee. They started the program in 2005, and they invite me to lead that program with resident athletes, Paralympic hopeful. And it was a success. In 2008, 2006, we got a lot of medals. We took 5 athletes and we brought 9 medals back, okay, including golds. And then 2008, same thing, and then they kept the program. They kept it. I am the head coach of that program. And just recently, I became the head coach of the national U.S. team and the Paralympic team. And so in Chula Vista, I managed it used to be 12 athletes, including guide runners.
Okay.
But now, I used to do that alone. Now I have another coach that we split the number of athletes. So we managed anything between 12 to 16 athletes. 12 being resident, and and when I came in, the deal was there was the track and field had a program there too for throws and jumps, and there was a coach there that was in charge, the director. He was working with one para athlete, and then one able-bodied athlete, middle distance, contact him because she wants to come to San Diego, and he asked me to work with the girl, and I said, yeah, sure, let's do this together. So for the first 2 years, the first two cycle, I was doing both Olympic and Paralympic sport. Helped her to qualify for the team in 2008, and then 2012 in London.
Yeah. I guess back in 1984, the Paralympics would have been a much smaller event. I mean, there wasn't an actual Paralympics in LA that year, but since then it's grown and grown, and I mean, in London 2012, it was a huge success here. It was a big success. I mean, I think everybody thought the Olympics would be the main event and the Paralympics would just be, a smaller event afterwards. But the British public really got into the Paralympics that year, and it was massive. And lots of the Paralympians who did really well in those games became household names, and they're still really well known today. You must have been pleased with the growth of the Paralympic movement over the past 15, 20 years.
Oh yeah, that's the reason why I was brought into the Paralympics. They invite me to, to help US, increase the medal count. At one point, the para started 1988. Okay, and the US did really well, but then the US started losing the medals because the other countries start picking up, developing the sport. And so in 2005, they brought Peter Eriksson. They hired Peter Eriksson as the director, including, in fact, Peter worked for the Paralympics in the UK.
Yeah.
And Peter, and I met Peter, and he said, we want to increase the medal counts. And I don't remember how bad we were, but I remember in 2016 we went from 23 to 29, and then 52 medals, 54.
Yeah.
And I think that I am part of that growth, and you spoke about London. I was there for the Olympic Games with two athletes, Alice, one American, and the first female athlete from Saudi Arabia, and it was unbelievable. If you went on the stadium, okay, let's say if you had an accident and went on coma on day one of the Olympic Games and woke up on day two of the Paralympic Games, you couldn't tell the difference. Is this Olympic or Paralympic?
Yeah.
That's how big it was. Every day it was like wow, this is unbelievable. And the way and how people were educated on the sport. Walking around, and people knew all the athletes, and the respect and the attention, and it was unbelievable.
Yeah. No, that's great. Hopefully Paris will be the same this summer. It's I think as we speak now, the opening ceremony is starting for the Olympics. So yeah, we're going to have a good few weeks of sports this summer in Paris. Do you I guess one final question from me then. What do you think of your events now and you must have seen all of the guys running 141 recently. Are you surprised by this? Are you amazed? Do you think it's normal? It should be happening? What are your
Could have been a long time ago.
You think so?
Okay? I thought in 2012 when Rudisha and their race would inspire the new generation to say, "Well, that is possible. Let's start training for that." But then it disappeared. It faded.
Yeah.
And now the kids, and it's very tough. If you're a coach, it's very tough to put in the athlete's mind, you can do this too. Okay, if you dedicate, if you follow the training, if you're patient, follow the process, that's the personal expectation you should have. Okay, but if the athlete cannot see, it's like it's not going to happen. And now it might be different from now on. Okay, from a coach perspective, you see 6 kids, 5 or 6 running under 143.
Yeah,
that's the expectation. If you're not thinking, if you're not seeing that, if you're not accepting, embracing that possibility, you might as well go find something else to do. Yeah. And that's the positive thing. That's how I see it. Do I know any of those kids? No, not because 2016 I decided to not work with able body anymore. Okay. Yeah. And the Olympian side, but I might start again, after this Olympic Paralympics.
What do you think you could run if you had the tracks and the shoes that athletes have today, and all the knowledge with nutrition and training and everything?
Oh, I don't know. I was blessed with having so great runners in my time, Seb Coe, James Robinson, Peter, even Steve Ovett was an annoying person in the 1500 meters. I mean, he was dominant, in the 15. Said Owita, and the 2 Brazilians that later became my teammates. I mean, I had enough stimulation in that sense. And in the shoes, I'll tell you one thing: those shoes are not helping me. So you need the personal expectation and the drive and the courage to take your body, to the next level, in order to make those shoes look good, to make the track, feel fast. So without being really fit, you're not gonna run fast.